Hello and welcome to the Daily Millwall for Thursday the 8th of May 2025. In today's Millwall news, we start off with this from the South London Press. Very colourful today. The londonnewsonline.co.uk. Calm down. Millwall boss up for Championship April award up against two promotion winning managers. Yes, if you did not know, Millwall have had two nominations for the April awards, the official EFL awards, and Alex Neil is one and Mihailo Ivanovic is the other. So let's discuss this. Mill boss Alex Neil has been nominated for the Championship Manager of the Month for April. The Lions manager picked up wins against Portsmouth, Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Norwich and Swansea last month as he moved his side to the cusp of the playoffs. Mill's only defeat came against Blackburn in a 4-1 loss at Ewood Park. This is the first time Neil has been up for the award since he arrived at the Den in December following Neil Harris's departure. Ex-Norwich boss Neil is up against Leeds United's Daniel Farke, who picked up 5 straight wins and scored 14 goals in the process. Well, he didn't do it, did he? His team did. Blackburn's Valerian Ishmael and Burnley's Scott Parker are also up for the prize. The Sky Bet Manager of the Month judging panel comprises former Barnsley manager Danny Wilson, Sky Sports' EFL expert Don Goodman, and Sky Bet EFL trader Ivor Davies. The winner will be announced Friday morning at 9 AM, so tomorrow. So, looking at that panel of a Northerner, a Midlander, and seemingly a Welshman, don't think Alex Neil's got much of a chance. So, yeah, nice to be nominated. So don't expect a win there, though. Now, moving on to this, as I mentioned, Ivanovic. So, yeah, Millwall striker nominated for April Championship Player of the Month. Millwall striker Mihailo Ivanovic has been nominated for the April Championship Player of the Month. The Serbian youngster scored both goals in a 2-1 win over Portsmouth last month and an important brace in a 3-1 victory at home to Norwich. Ivanovic also netted in a 4-1 defeat at Ewood Park against Blackburn. The 20-year-old has 12 championship goals in his debut EFL campaign and has now been nominated for the Player of the Month award for the first time. Ivanovic is up against Burnley's Josh Brownhill, who has 3 goals and 3 assists in April. Swansea's Harry Darling and Leeds' Manos Solomon are also up for the award. The judging panel is the same judging panel as for the manager award. So again, not too sure about this. The winner again is going to be announced tomorrow at 9 AM. There was a graphic going around on social media about how well Ivanovic has done compared to other players, not just in this country, but around Europe, of the same age. He's insanely good in the metrics for, I think, under 22 players in the whole of Europe. So, I mean, wow. When you see it and you see the graphic and they illustrate it, it just brings home, what he's done. He was 19, I think, when he came here, wasn't he? He's turned 20. I mean, man, insane stuff that he's the way that he's grown and come on, and it wasn't. It was kind of hot and cold when he was playing one up front, but 2 up front, man, the guy's. That's it. That's what's clicked. So, fair play to Alex Neil for seeing that and changing it and making the changes. We got this. So Welling United. If you go to Welling United, so Millwall, former Millwall players are in the management team there now. So this is again from londonnewsonline.co.uk with their fabulous bright display. Former Millwall midfield favourite joins Welling United coaching staff. Former Millwall midfielder Shaun Williams has joined Welling United's backroom team. The Wings, relegated from National League South, recently appointed ex-Lions and Chant winger Lee Martin as their new manager. So former Millwall winger Lee Martin and Shaun Williams is there as well. which is interesting. As I said, they were relegated from National League South, so you would assume that they're going into the Isthmian Premier, but I'm not too sure about that. They're obviously, I think that's the preferred route. There is an option, if they wanted to, I guess, that they could go into the Southern League, but I doubt they would do that, because the Southern League goes all the way out to the West Country, and it's a lot of travelling, so I doubt that they would ever do that. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be in the Isthmian Premier next season. Martin has moved to bring in Williams as first team coach. Billy Bingham, who played for Palace, Crewe, Gillingham and Bromley, is the new assistant manager. Martin told the Welling website, "I'm delighted to be able to welcome these two individuals to join me. Not only are they fantastic people who I trust, but they also come with a wealth of playing and coaching experience, as well as valuable connections, which we will be able to benefit from." Williams, 38, dropped out of the professional game when he moved to Eastbourne Borough in September 2024, and he retired from playing at the start of February. I'm really excited by the project that Lee and Welling have in place for the next couple of years, said the Irishman. I'm looking forward to working with Lee and Billy, who both, in their own careers have a wealth of experience and gain knowledge from so many different managers and coaches. We want to bring that excitement and entertaining football back to the fans to enjoy when they come to support the team, and bring a culture between the players and the fans that we're all one. So obviously mentioned there by Lee Martin about the connections, obviously Shaun Williams. Does that mean some under-21s go out on loan? That's a decent level for under-21s to go out on loan to. Obviously, if the National League South is a very competitive division, so the one below that should be a bit easier to some extent. So there you go. We watch your career with great interest. Now, moving on to this. This is from West Ham's website, I believe, so whufc.com. Why am I showing you this? Why am I showing you this? What's wrong with me? Have I gone insane? No. It's about, obviously today is VE Day. Well, it's the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Seemingly, it's being treated as an occasion, I think, to kind of it feels like it's going to be like one of the last chances, the last times that there will be some kind of commemoration, remembrance of World War II with people that were actually involved in World War II. These people obviously are getting old and they are dying, as is the way, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So this is being treated as a big occasion, the 80th anniversary of VE Day, because it may be the last time, or one of the last times. So we've got some stories, and this popped up, and I had a little flick through it, and it kind of made me a bit curious. And one of them is, when VE Day arrived on Tuesday the 8th of May 1945, there was a huge outpouring of joy and relief, and among the events hastily arranged to celebrate the end of the war in Europe were football matches, which were played on the following day, Wednesday the 9th of May. Now obviously, this was before floodlights. They would have been played during the day. I believe, I'm not sure whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday, or maybe both days were declared as bank holidays, so people would have had the day off and whatnot. So the evening newspapers advertised those games, including a special challenge match between various stuff, but Charlton Athletic versus Millwall. So Charlton Fleck versus Millwall. So I've been around and around and around trying to find out the result of this game. You would assume that we beat them because we always beat them, but I couldn't find the result. And I know it kicked off at 3:15, as our games did back then. But obviously this was away at Charlton. But yeah, and I think that's it. I don't think we get mentioned again. Really, it's all about West Ham, really. But yeah, so went around the internet and even looked in a book, an actual book. Richard Lindsay's Millwall Complete Record 1885 to 1991. Trying to find this result. Couldn't find it, but I did find some other interesting stuff which I'm now going to share with you now. Start out. So, let's go back up. This website, very interesting. www.englishfootballleaguetables.co.uk. They've got a blog, David Coleman's blog, Football in World War II. And it's very detailed, there's a lot about it. But as we go down, they mention some things. Obviously, it was regionalised, and the leagues weren't official leagues. It wasn't the Football League. And stuff. Obviously, famously, we know that it is said that Millwall made the Wartime Cup final, which is true. We made the Southern final, and we lost to Chelsea. The London teams actually broke away from the Football League because we wanted to make our own fixtures, which was important because we had to be very ad hoc when the fixtures could be done. Going through, so he does it year by year, season by season and stuff. Very interesting in that. Have I gone past it, or is it? So if we go down to the just before it says 1943, 1944. The surprise of the season was the rise of Lovell's Athletic, who finished second in the second championship to Liverpool. Only in the wartime could a sweet factory football team run with the biggest clubs in English football. Yes, the football team of Lovell's Sweet Factory played against the teams of Liverpool and other professional teams, and they finished second. And in fact, the following season, it's got Millwall there. It's actually here in the paragraph where it says Millwall. Millwall started this season 43-44 without a home, being bombed out of the Den. They played the majority of the games at the Valley, with a few games at Selhurst Park, and Millwall did not return home until February of 1944. This season saw success for a second non-league club. The Football League North second championship, which is insane, North, was won by Bath City. How are they in the North? Exactly. Who finished equal on points with Wrexham, but they won on a goal difference. So non-league teams were competing with league teams. Obviously, this wasn't the league. It was an extra thing that does it count? Does it not count? It's hard to find results for a lot of these fixtures. They don't really count, do they? To some extent. But I mean, if you were there, it counts. Surely. So here we go. As mentioned, this season, to West Ham were bombed out of their home at Upton Park, and they played all their fixtures away until they returned home in December 1944. Highlights of this season were two 90,000 crowds at Wembley. The first was to see England beat Scotland 6-2, and the second was a War Cup South final tie, which Chelsea beat Millwall 2-0. Now, the interesting thing about that game, which I think we're going to move on now. Before we do that, as mentioned, so Tuesday the 8th of May was declared VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. The government made it a bank holiday so people could celebrate. Only one game was played on the actual day, a Football League North Second Championship match at Oakwell that saw Huddersfield Town beat Barnsley 4-2 in front of a disappointing crowd of 527 people. The next day, VDA +1, saw 9 games arranged. As mentioned, Shaun versus Millwall was one of them. The biggest gate of the day was at Anfield Road, where 32,000... Was it called Anfield Road back then and not Anfield? 32,000 people watched Liverpool beat Preston North End 5-1. Bosh. So there you go. You can see there's a lot going on here. A lot going on. So, more about that game. So from this is from Londonist.com. And it's from 2020. And it talks about football during the war. If we go down, this is Upton Park bomb damage, where it was hit in August 1944. It says several grounds were hit by German bombs, including Highbury, the Den, Upton Park, and the Valley. As we go down, so here, the Valley was constantly in the firing line, obviously being on the river, close to the river, and being in the industrial Docklands area. One match between Charlton and Millwall was halted with 1 minute to go, and the visitors 2-0 up. Obviously, nothing changes there. Once the all clear was sounded, they played the final minute. Sticklers for rules they were in the olden days. So a game was postponed because they saw the bombers. There was a bombing siren, and then once the all clear was sounded, they came back and finished the game. So that must have been fun. He talks about this, but there's something else. So here we go again. The non-league football continued too. The 1943 London Senior Cup final between Dulwich Hamlet and Tooting and Mitcham was due to be played on Easter Monday at the Den, when a lone raider hit the north stand. A hefty crowd barrier was thrown 200 yards, and the terrace and pitch were cratered. Somehow, the club cleared up the mess sufficiently for the game to go ahead. So they must have filled in the hole on the pitch and just carried on. With Tooting 5-4 winners, but with 30 minutes still to go, the main stand caught fire, probably from a discarded cigarette, causing so much damage that the Lions were forced to play their home matches at the Valley, Selhurst Park and Upton Park. Obviously, didn't know about the Upton Park thing. But obviously, as we've seen before, the news, the story is that Millwall couldn't play at the Den because they were bombed out. But now we find out there was a fire there as well. So, they carried on. They fixed the ground up and they were playing games there. They played this game there. But it was actually a fire on the day of a game, 30 minutes before the game. So, luckily, was anyone injured in this? It doesn't seem to. Obviously, if somebody died in that, obviously, there have been some tragic, Bradford fire, really serious fires at football grounds. So it doesn't seem that anyone was injured or died, but it was bad enough that for the following season, for quite some while, Mill had to play mostly at the Valley, a little bit at Selhurst Park, and apparently at Upton Park as well. So there you go. And talking about that Chelsea FA Cup final. So what happened during the war is that obviously registration of players was a bit loosey-goosey, and you were allowed to field basically ringers to some extent. It was guest players, but obviously it was ringers to some extent. And it says here, the guest system made something of a mockery of the cup by 1945, as the two Southern finalists, Chelsea and Millwall, bid for star guests to play for them in what one newspaper called the Lee Slend final. And Chelsea won the bidding war, playing 8 guests to Millwall's 4. And they also won the match 2-0 in front of 90,000 people at Wembley. War in Europe was over and the country was in celebratory mood, forgiving a dreary game played to an extent by strangers. Well, of course. But obviously they had more strangers and they end up winning it. So there you go. And like I said, trying to find out the result of the V-Day game against Charlton, you would assume that we won it, but can't find out. I think it's one of those where you have to actually go down to the British Library and look at a copy of the London Evening News, or whatever it's called at the time, for the results. The microfiche, get that out and have a look. But yeah, it would be interesting to know. Obviously, I always assumed, you knew that the Den was bombed during the war, and you assumed that was what meant that we couldn't play at the Den. Turns out it was a fire. Never knew that. So now, looking around on V-Day, the 80th anniversary, and found that out. So that's interesting. And now you know as well if you're watching this. And on that note, thank you for watching and goodbye.